The LEAP system is a methodology or a thought process that we use. It stems from a model. So Robert Castellan, the guy that founded the LEAP system about 30 years ago, created a financial model that integrated protection, savings, and growth into one financial model. It's based around the concept of lost opportunity cost, or equalizing decisions based on present value and math. And it's an absolutely phenomenal system because it allows you to determine fact from fiction. At the end of the day, there's a lot of opinion in finance that when you tie it back to math, you can determine what's the right answer, as long as you equalize the scenarios via lost opportunity cost. My favorite example is the home mortgage. Is a 15-year or a 30-year more expensive? Oftentimes you'll hear on the media, hey, you should do a 15-year mortgage, or you should double pay your mortgage because that will save you $180,000 in interest over that 15-year period or 30-year period. And that's actually not true. When you equalize the 30-year and the 15-year, what you'll find is a 30-year mortgage is much less expensive than a 15-year mortgage at today's interest rates. Now, the assumption that you have to make is, what are you going to earn on your money? What rate of return will you earn on your money? And that's the piece that's unknown. And so if you're typically earn high rates of return, or you're a small business owner and you've got the opportunity to go hire another employee, then for you a 30-year mortgage is a much better option because you have a lower cash flow, which will allow you to build up more liquidity or invest more money in your business, which should produce a higher income down the road than if you put it all into your house. Now, some people want their house paid for, and that's a whole different reason to hurry that up. But from a pure cost standpoint, the 30 years is oftentimes much less expensive than a 15-year mortgage. Life insurance is one of those things that you really have to drag people into it kicking and screaming. But down the road, you'll get the call from the client that said, hey, I'm glad you made me do that. I had a policy that didn't have a war clause. So we went and found a policy. It was independent. We shopped multiple companies. And so we found a company that didn't have a war clause. He was in the military at the time. He just graduated pilot training. The policy we picked actually had a slightly higher premium than he had to pay because he was a pilot in the military. Obviously, that's a risky job, but we were able to get a fairly good rate. And then a few years later, the war kicked up and he flew off to war. And it was at that time that we got a nice little thank you from his wife saying, hey, we've always hated making this premium payment, but now that Matt's off at the war, fighting in Afghanistan, I can't tell you how much better at night we sleep knowing we have that piece of paper that make everything okay if something went wrong. I believe that from a human life value standpoint, if you don't have worry in your life, confidence is the single biggest factor that will determine how successful someone is. So anything I can do to reduce worry and uncertainty and minimize that, transfer that risk away, that allows me then to focus on my unique ability or my whatever it is I'm best at, right? Which will create way more net worth than if I have, that worry nagging at me, making me worry about what I'm doing, not living to my fullest potential. The LEAP system has three major concepts. One is lost opportunity cost. In order to determine if something is a good decision or not, you have to equalize the scenario. You treat it like a laboratory. So LEAP is all about creating a laboratory, much like an engineer would use, that bases everything back to math. And the one thing that happens in finance a lot is because people want your money, a lot of strategies are designed from the financial institution's benefit. The financial institution makes money when you give them money. They obviously want to keep that money as long as they can, and they want to give it back to you as little as possible. And if you were the CEO of a financial institution, those are the rules that you would operate under. And so most of the strategies that are promoted, buy term, live off the interest, do a 15-year mortgage. All those strategies benefit the financial institution more so than the consumer. Now, some of those strategies may be the right circumstance in the person's needs and goals. It depends. And so what we do is we build a laboratory. We put in all the inputs. We have the ends and goals out here as the destination, and then we run through scenarios to make sure that that occurs. The LEAP system's second premise, besides equalization, is the movement of money. So wealth is created when transactions occur, when money is moved, when I take money from cash and put it into my business, right? And I go out and I create a business, and that business creates profits. That money is in the movement, not in tying it up. What financial institutions want you to do is to lock it down as long as possible so that they can take it and use it and run their business and make a lot of money with your money. And so I, as my own little financial institution, as a consumer, want to make sure that my money stays in motion as much as possible when there's great opportunity, or it flows from bad opportunity to good opportunity. Whether it's investment risk, life insurance risk, disability risk, risk of lawsuit, any type of risk of taxes. The key is to transfer risk as much as possible. So anything that is a drag on my total return, I want to minimize, not necessarily defer. One of the big concepts that you see preached by a lot of people is defer, defer, defer. Well, if I'm deferring at a 15% tax bracket and eventually spending it when capital gains tax rates go up at 28%, that probably wasn't a very good decision. So the key is to look at the environment and minimize tax, just like you would minimize risk. And so that's the LEAP system has been a great tool to help enunciate or teach those concepts to people. What they've built is tools that we can use to teach people via our financial simulator that we use on software, or just from a pictorial standpoint in the model that we use. With the LEAP system, we're able to go through and design strategies that transcend just products. And it's the strategy, I think, that really creates the ultimate wealth, oftentimes more than the product. And when you look at it like investor returns, Dalbar is a company that does study on investments and investors, and investor performance is significantly below investment performance. So over most decades, investment performance has been 12 to 15%. In that environment, oftentimes investor performance is between 2 and 4%. So not even 1/3 of what the investments did. So it's very important, in our opinion, that you have a strategy that you can stick with to make sure that you maximize the accumulation of wealth for your family, so you can accomplish dreams and goals, you can educate kids, and you can retire and live on a beach if that's what you want to do. So the LEAP system is really one of the things from a conceptual standpoint that governs all the other decisions we make at Mike Mills Wealth Management.